Hello and welcome to live post-match reaction to the Hurricanes versus the Stormers, and this one finished 34-28. So yes, it was the expected victory by the Canes, but hey, you know what? It wasn't. It didn't necessarily look like that throughout the whole game. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion, and sat just there is Ashwin. How you doing, sir?
Oh, not bad actually. Been a good day, not bad.
Not bad?
Yeah.
Had a nice lie down?
Had a nice lie down, exactly, trying to get that back and leg working.
Had a bit of barbecue?
Bit of a barbecue, bit of a beer.
A couple of beers. So yeah,
a few Tramadols.
If you want to have a look at what our barbecue looks like, you can obviously pop over to at DrivingMaul on Twitter, and we have a pre-game photo of us with that. So, this one kicked off, and the Stormers, it was all Stormers early doors.
Yes.
A couple of early penalties to put them 6-0 ahead, as the Crusaders Rears couldn't get their hands on the ball.
Oh, yeah, classic. Well, you expected that sort of, Stormers first game in New Zealand, and you expect them to come out and really wanting to sort of put an imprint on the game, and that's what they tried to do in that early sort of 6 minutes, was it?
Yeah, six 7 minutes for those first two.
Yeah.
And for us Kiwis who don't see the Stormers that often, it's always nice to see a winger kicking rather than the fly half. So yeah,
yes.
Just for those of you who haven't seen the what do you want to call it, the Stormers much, it was interesting to see that, as you say, SB
Marius.
There you go. He has the pronunciations. I don't. I'm English, so we don't do pronunciations. It's one of those kind of things. Just trying to bring up some stats here. One of the other then had that, and then we had basically this one. The line out for the Stormers was functioning pretty well tonight, but they lost one early on, which gave the gone blank here.
The Hurricanes.
The Hurricanes. They're the ones.
They're the ones. The yellow ones.
Exactly, the yellow ones.
Yep.
And for a change, the referee wasn't in the same yellow as the Hurricanes, which is nice.
Yes.
So the stolen line out in their own 22 went through the phases and eventually bashed over.
Yeah, look, the interesting, right? Because right through the game, and we'll talk about the last 5 minutes, but right through the game, the Stormers' attacking line out was spot on point. But that, you can't remember too many defensive lineouts that they had. Oh, they did have a few, but the first one they have, and they got it wrong, and Hurricanes really just sort of win the ball off the Stormers' throw a few phases later, and they go in pretty adjacent to the sticks.
And it was, and that suddenly definitely changed the approach by the Stormers from then on. We didn't see the Stormers really going for threes after that. Whereas, and you've got to remember, the Stormers are one of those sides that have scored the fewest number of tries in this tournament so far, and I think 6 from memory. And I think they've only allowed 7 in response. So one of the stronger defences and one of the less
weaker attacks,
but been knocking over points by threes. So I mean, and which is what the Canes did next. The Canes got themselves a penalty in the 22. Because the exit only went as far as the 22, and then I was a bit surprised to see them take the 3 there.
Oh, look, I mean, I think that was fairly central, if I remember rightly. And what we're seeing these days, a lot of the teams, if it's within the 15-metre marks either side of the touchlines, they consider the shot at goal and vicinity of the post, how far out it is. And if it's outside of the 15, then they kick to the corners. So it's inside, so they're sort of saying, hey, look, the old Stormers have been taking the threes, and this just helps them get a bit more breathing space on that front. So, yeah, I wasn't to be honest, I wasn't too surprised to see them take the 3.
After that, the Stormers got yellow carded for sort of multiple penalties, as the Canes were running pretty rampant at that point for a short period. 5 metres out from the resultant scrum, we had a little grubber through from not Finlay Christie, because it was the other guy at that point, Judd. And Geordie Barrett ran through to score quite comfortably, down. That was after we'd had, was the Lamb one before that or after that? I'm trying to figure out where the Lamb one was. From memory, that was after Lamb had already knocked on over the try line.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Lamb had knocked on basically a ball at the 4 line.
Yep.
And then we sort of I think we had a few bit of time. A few minutes later, There was the yellow card.
Yep. And
So the Stormers are one less in the scrum. Oh, sorry, no, one less in the back line. So I can't remember if it was Khaleesi or their number 8, whose name sort of escapes me, who was actually, I noticed, off in the replays, off the scrum. He wasn't on the scrum. So the Hurricanes put the pressure on, scrum went down, there was an advantage, and so Judd put the quick kick through for Barrett to run onto.
Yep. And to be fair to Lamb, he did very well to get in the position to knock that on over the line. But yeah, he should have just dropped on it. Even with that man down, though, and admittedly it wasn't the backs, the Canes were really struggling with the line-out maul.
Discipline to start with, actually.
But we even had line-out mauls from outside the 22.
Yeah.
Get maul into the 22.
Yep.
And gain another penalty that then let them kick into the meter to the 5 meter line and go again. But yeah, you're right. Discipline also was a problem in this game. And if we have a quick check on the old stats here, Hurricanes 11 penalties to the Stormers 8, and I think quite the Stormers, a few of those happened late on as well. But before that, in the first, it was definitely the one way round. And so even with that man down, they did manage to get the line-out maul, try to close things up to 15-13.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were saying at the time, Kane's errors were really letting themselves down in that first half.
Well, their scrum's weak. The Cane scrum, that is. The Cane scrum's weak. And what you saw constantly through the game is the Stormers basically putting pressure on that scrum time, get that penalty, and then to kick into the corners to get their driving maul started. And scoring tries off that. So, it wasn't too surprising. It was their game plan all the way through the game, really. And that's really the only part of the game where they seem to get ascendancy or to get any momentum was out of achieving penalties, either off their dominant scrum or around the general play, and then kicking into the corners. That's all they really had.
Yeah, I mean, we don't normally... Possession and territory aren't normally a good guide as to who's dominating necessarily, or who's in the other hand. But in that first half, 63% possession, 62% territory for the Hurricanes. They should have scored more points.
Yeah.
But their own errors...
Errors and discipline were the issue.
Yeah, with the issue. And from 15-13 up, the Geordie comes in from totally the wrong side of a ruck, giving up 3. I mean, he was not even on his own side.
He should have been wearing a blue jersey.
He was, his position was, blue jersey. Otherwise, you just don't come in from that side. So he gave up a blatant penalty straight from the ref, easy 3, which puts the Stormers in front. It's then half time, we think.
Because I ran off.
Ashwin runs off.
Out of here.
As do half the players down the tunnel. The ref calls the players back saying, "I'm not blown for half time because I want to check a potential foul play or high tackle, basically." And Fafita gets called yellow carded for contact to the head with his shoulder. Tad Harsh, the Stormers player, was going down, and Fafita was trying to tackle, and so. We've seen this one called as a penalty only in the past, but Fafita got the yellow. Funny enough, kicks to the corner, line out maul, and a
try that I didn't see because I was upstairs.
And that meant it was 15-21 at half time. We heard Carlos Spencer talking at half time at the assistant ref. Assistant ref? No, assistant coach for the Hurricanes.
He was assistant ref on his playing days.
He was, wasn't he? Absolutely. I'm not assistant ref or the actual ref sometimes. Anyway.
Fitzy was the actual ref.
So Carlos was talking about the fact that they needed to clean up the discipline and basically run the larger pack, Stormers pack, off their feet. And we saw that. And it meant we had a scrappy second half. Yeah. We had a crossing by the Crusaders. It's not by the Crusaders, sorry, by the Stormers. Geordie then went and missed the kick. But we saw, it was scrappy. We saw the Canes trying to speed up play with quick line-outs, with tap and goes from the penalties. I mean, they did at least twice, if not 3 tap and goes from penalties, which they weren't effective, and they really were just trying to tire out that Stormers pack. And I just
don't think in the modern day rugby that you can actually tire a pack out, tell you the truth. With reserves and that, you got 8 on the bench, 3 are backs, 5 of the forward pack. You're replacing more than half the forward pack. right? And I just don't see forward packs tiring out these days. They get a little bit slower, but not so much so that they're just falling off tackles left, right, and centre. So I don't think that is actually a game plan that works. I think really what you really have to look at is accuracy of your own game plan. So you're sure that the Hurricanes trying to speed it up, that it was working in the sense of like speeding up any time is a good game plan.
Yep.
Because it means that the defensive line isn't set. So that's where the benefit comes in. But the problem is that the accuracy wasn't there with the Canes and they're speeding up to the game. Too many errors. And on the back of those errors are knock-ons or penalties, and that's where this game comes in, the Stormers' game plan, scrum, penalty, and they've got the penalty already, kick, line-out drive.
And we can look at looking at the stats. The Hurricanes only had two. Whoops, no, this is out of date. I've got late ones, but the stats I have here, and this is after 60 minutes, just while it's refreshes, had the Hurricanes with 2 scrums and the Stormers with 5, which shows you that the Stormers weren't making those handling errors that the Canes were.
Obviously, because of the fact that the Stormers aren't making the errors because they haven't got 60% of the ball. Yeah,
they haven't got the ball, but they're also they're not trying crazy things either. Whereas the number of I've not checked, actually, I take that back. Offloads 10 and 11. So so maybe I'm wrong. But it didn't feel like that they were trying to play as 50-50 at rugby as the Canes.
So here was the thing with the Stormers offloads. The Stormers were doing offloads, but the offloads were the players that were basically marked. So they'd get the offload, and the player that they've offloaded to is getting tackled. They're not really getting any momentum out of the offloads. The thing that I sort of thought, look, at the end of the day, the Hurricanes won the game, so hey, look, at the end of the day, it worked for them. But really, to me, they should have at some point seen that they were playing with fire and playing in their own territory. And I suppose we'll come to it very shortly, and they got away with it. But really, the Hurricanes should have been doing was giving it to Geordie and just kicking it as far down the field as possible, because the Stormers just didn't look like they were actually going to create any attack except out of a scrum penalty.
Yep.
So play that game down the far end of the field and let the Stormers bring the game to them and break, do 70, 80, 90 metres to score a try.
And the player that sort of, that'll get some plaudits is going to be Houston. Normally it's your left wing that's your attacking wing and your right wing's your more defensive one. But Houston got himself on the end of a rather loopy bars from Tier. But hey, he had enough space, he had enough footwork to get round 3 players that were all trying to cut him off to score in the corner. And that was his first of 2 tries. He did it again. Both times they were under advantage, but the ball gets spun wide to Houston and he dives in. That bracketed a line-out maul try. Line-out maul. This one did actually get spun out one place for Stormers to go over. But under those 2 advantages, we saw the Hurricanes claw it back to a 1-point game, 27-28 after the hour mark.
Yeah, look, that second Houston try. I mean, both Houston tries, you have to give it to Wes Houston, because there's work to do. The first one, there's a little bit of work to do. The second one, there's truckloads of work to do. You're watching, it's like, oh yeah, they'll bundle him into touch in the corner. But he does really one of those miracle plays in the corners that you see these days. And even when you see it head on initially, you sort of think, oh, I thought it was a try. And it's like, the feet are in touch. And it's when you see the side on one, it's like, his feet are in the air. So it's a fantastic skill set that Wes Houston has. Not just the speed, but actually his finishing ability as well to finish those 2 tries off. You look at, some other players wouldn't have finished those and they wouldn't have got those tries.
Yep. And it was getting frantic. The decision-making was all over the shop around that time, where we had those tap and goes. We had a tap and go by Burton Barrett straight in front of the posts. We had we had some interesting, should we say, kicks. Houston, also another one where he tries to. If you see somebody like Naholo try this, or Nadolo, or the bigger wingers, then fine. But seeing Houston trying to run over a player, and that's not his game.
Yeah, look,
he's a very good player. Don't get me wrong, but charging over players is not his strong point.
Yeah, look, and that was a crazy thing, right? This is factors that I'll come back to a point I made before. Is playing the game with deep in the opposition territory, in the Stormers' territory. The option for Wes Houston is definitely to chip it. He scored 2 tries, I think, at that stage. He scored the 2 tries.
Scored 2 tries, yeah.
He scored the 2 tries. So they're like bees to the honeypot when he's got the ball. They're like, we're going to shut him down. And they've all come into him. There's nobody in behind. There's no behind the defensive line. The chip is on. And he thinks that he's, sort of the money in dollar and tries to run over the top of the defence. Not going to happen.
No.
And he got bundled into touch.
And he got, yeah. And we had a couple of others. We had Bowden Barrett's doing chip overs when there were sweeping players. We had up and unders that went about 5 metres forward. We had all sorts of stuff was
pretty random.
Was going on. It was pretty random. So what we're seeing here about this Hurricanes team is they are reliant on a couple of key guys. One of those key guys is Artie Surveyor. In doing some of his high-stepping best as he tries to
bullock his way
through. Yes. Now I've not been tackled. I am going to keep going for another 5 metres. Oh,
I've got 5 guys hanging off me, but I can keep going. I'll just stomp my way up the field.
And for a lot of players, you actually say he's gone in too high. He's going to get wrapped up.
Yeah, but
it doesn't happen to him very often anyway. So he fought through, recycles, goes wide via a couple of players, goes wide to Bowden Barrett eventually. He's got 2 guys outside him with no one in front of them. And he's got 3 guys in front of himself. So what does he do? He takes them on.
Tuck it up.
Sorry? He makes it fine. So he got away with it. But that was the wrong choice, in all honesty. To suddenly try and, tuck it up and take it through 3 players rather than spin it out to the 2 open people outside him, who were backed as well. We're not talking slow boys. I mean, the guy on the outside there is Ben Lamb. If you give Ben Lamb space, he'll get in.
Pretty much Ben Lamb 1-on-1, he's going to score.
Yeah, and he was 1 on none.
He's 1 on none.
Unless he's going to knock it on.
Like he did.
But yeah, he went in to make it a 6-point game at 34-28. That was needed because they gave up penalties within kickable distance. But because it was more than 3 points, that meant the Stormers had to go for the corner. They went to the corner twice. Now, we've already had 3 line-out maul tries from 5 metres out, from 3 5-metre line-outs. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for the Hurricanes, they couldn't execute on those 3. It was those last 2. That was very strange.
Oh, look, very bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. The accuracy that the Stormers had in their line-out drives leading up to that, the accuracy that they had in getting the penalties to get those line-out, so when they had the opportunities, the accuracy in what they were trying to execute, they executed 100%. And then it comes down to the critical. You got 6-7 minutes to play, and it all goes pear-shaped. You get 2 opportunities, guilty opportunities, to do what you've done all game, and really, it wasn't really the pressure from the Hurricanes. They actually just made an error in the execution.
Yep.
Particularly the second time.
Giving up a penalty at your own lineouts are just.
Yeah, look, the second one was the man in front of the ball carrier when they're setting up the maul, and when they've executed those other driving mauls so well, you sort of think, and they make that error. It was just like, yeah. And it's just like, I suppose something that, came out of last night's game and conversation around last night's game is the fact is that having experience off your bench or experienced players that execute well when it comes to the crunch. And it's just like, obviously the younger players don't necessarily execute when the pressure's on, and you expect the experienced players to do that. Well, there is an element of that. It could have been because, twice down there in the old red zone, and they really just... they stuffed it up. And it really was their game for the taking at that stage.
Yep. And then the Hurricanes decided they would play out their own half for the last 90 seconds, and they pulled it off. To be fair to them, they tried playing out their own half pretty much all game, which is why they had most of the possession.
Yeah.
But they didn't get it right every time. Hence the high number of scrums that turned into those tries. We're talking about a side here, the Stormers, who I think from memory had scored 6 tries all season up until this game. They scored 3 tries in this game. So out of the last, was it 4 or 5 games we're in now?
50% improvement.
50% of their tries are coming one game as opposed to 4. So that has been, that's you've got to say the Hurricanes perhaps played into the Stormers' hands, but they got away with it.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, obviously, as you do, you're talking to the TV, not screaming because it's not the Blues, but talking to the TV, and you're sort of saying, "Geez, what are they doing? Just kick it out of your territory. Don't make a mistake in your territory." And it's just like, and just I think it was about the third ruck before the final hooter actually went and they kicked it into touch and had a bit of a handbag situation. But Richard Judd's pointing into the ruck, trying to get a penalty from Glenn Jackson, and the ball actually squirted out. He just noticed it in time and dived on it. Otherwise, I think it was Khaleesi that was about to dive on the ball. So, very dangerous game to play. As I say, I come back to the fact is that at no stage, apart from scrum penalties and line-out drives, did the Stormers look like they were going to do anything else or being able to create anything.
So the Hurricanes got away with it. 10 changes from last week didn't help them. Their big names stood up in the end in the Barretts and Artie Surveyor. But it's concerning signs going forwards when you're going to allow a team to put on 50% of their tries in one game for the 2 seasons so far. I think.
Look, I mean, final thought for me, the fact is that I've always thought is that there's concerns around the forward pack for the Hurricanes.
Yep.
Artie Severa aside, I really think that they've still got those concerns. You get a pack that executes well up front, Hurricanes are going to struggle. They'll be able to, unless they can get some miracle plays. And Hurricanes are a team that can do miracle plays. They're going to need miracle plays to be able to win games when their forward pack's getting dominated.
Yeah, and the other, obviously, Dane Coles is the other guy who's quality in there. But they do, they lack grunt, and they definitely lack size, especially in that
second row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there we go. Hurricanes got away with it. Don't forget that on the recording there'll be stuff up around here to click, which will include my Patreon page where you can get exclusive opinion pieces and from myself for as $1 a month. That's a great deal.